Welcome back to Unlocking Fertility. I'm your host, Katherine Rowland, and if you're new here, hi, nice to meet you. I'm a Chinese medicine practitioner who specializes in fertility with an insanely high success rate because when we support the mind, body, and soul, anything is possible. And your body is meant to procreate, your body wants to get pregnant, and we're really just talking about how to support your body to do. We're going to dive a little bit away from my normal content, and we're going to talk about male fertility and male infertility because it takes two to tango and it takes three to make a baby. And when I say that, it takes the man, it takes the sperm, it takes the woman, it takes the egg, but it also takes the spirit, right? So that's the third person I have in mind. But today we're going to focus on male fertility. Now, if you've listened to my podcast before, I just want to start off by saying that it might seem like I'm repeating a lot of the things, and that's because male fertility is not that far off from female infertility. Now, males have completely different mechanisms, but at the end of the day, it comes back to the same base of the man needing to really build nourishment. So the difference between male fertility and female fertility is that with men, it's really just based on the man's essence and their sperm, which with female fertility, I often think females have to do a lot more of the work because it's based on the egg, but it's really not the egg alone. It's the woman needing to support an entire pregnancy, right? The recent research shows that when a woman is pregnant, it's like running a marathon every day, right? So while a woman needs to be able to support running a marathon every day for 9 months, a man can sit on the couch eating Doritos during those 9 months, right? So in a lot of ways, I'd like to say male fertility is quote unquote easier because the man just needs good sperm and good essence, right? He just needs to show up in good quality, where the woman needs to be able to support a growing human being for 9 months. That being said, low sperm quality, low motility, low quantity is a big problem recently. And just like with female fertility, male fertility can absolutely change. Okay, so diving into male fertility and sperm health. From a Chinese medicine perspective, for a male to have strong fertility and good sperm health and quality, he needs an abundance of kidney yang energy, an abundance of kidney yin energy, an abundance of blood, and a free flow of liver qi. Now, you're probably asking, what the heck are those things? So let's dive into each one individually. So in Chinese medicine, ideally, our body should always be this beautiful balance of yin and yang energy. Yin energy is the cooling aspect of our body. Yin energy is the thick substances in our body. Yin energy is actually something you can touch and feel and see. Yin energy, it's also rest, it's nighttime, it's restoration. So we can think of yin as of having abundance of semen, right? Sperm is yin. It is thick fluids in the body. Now, at the same time, we need a balance of yang energy. And yang energy is that warm, moving energy in our body. It's daytime. It's what gives us energy. And again, it's warm and it's moving. And the yang energy is really important because the yang energy supports ejaculation. It supports motility, the movement of the sperm, right? So a man needs to have this really beautiful balance of yin and yang energy, having an abundance of sperm with yin energy and having good movement of sperm with yang energy. So if you have an abundance of yin and you have a lot of sperm, but those sperm are sluggish and they're tired and they're not swimming well, that can create infertility, and that would be a lack of yang energy in the body. And then men also need an abundance of blood in their body the same way women do. So blood is a yin substance also. So blood nourishes the reproductive organs and creates an abundance of semen. So just as it's important for women to build yin energy and to build blood, it's just as important for males. And I'll go into a little bit later what this all means and what you can do to support it. And lastly, your liver qi needs to be flowing freely. Liver qi controls our free flow of movement of an energy within our body, right? That free flow of sperm in the body. So it governs ejaculation, it governs erections, and a big part of the free flow of liver qi is emotional regulation. So when someone has stagnant, right, stuck liver qi, It can show up as not being able to ejaculate, not being able to get an erection. It can also show up as irritability and mood swings and being snappy, right? It's like that stuck energy, that stuck liver chi that sometimes will come out and sometimes won't. So let's talk about how men can support their fertility by supporting building kidney yin energy, building blood, building kidney yang energy, and supporting that free flow of liver chi. Now, just like with women, I find one of the most important parts of male fertility, especially when there is an infertility problem, is coffee. Coffee depletes our reproductive health for men and for women. In Chinese medicine, food and drinks, it's not just about macros and nutrients, there's an energy to everything. And the energy to coffee depletes our kidney energy. In Chinese medicine, our kidneys are our life essence. It governs growth and reproduction. It's literally our reproductive battery pack. And so when you drink coffee, decaffeinated or regular, that depletes your kidney energy. And the last thing you want to do when you're trying to get pregnant is deplete your kidney energy. You know, the biggest misconception about coffee is that it gives you energy. It does not give you energy. It takes from your storage and your reserves. And when you are trying to get pregnant, your body needs that storage and that reserves to create an abundance of sperm and healthy sperm, right? So what coffee does is it signals for our body to release kidney yang energy. In Chinese medicine, kidney yang energy is the warming, moving energy in our body, which is why when we take a sip of coffee, we feel that jolt of energy. We feel that joy. Like, it feels good. I'm not going to lie. I like the feeling of drinking coffee originally, but it's the long-term effects that really deplete us. So we only have so much kidney yang energy. Kidney yang energy is really our essence. And the more we deplete it, the more we just deplete our body in total. It's so much harder to bring back, right, to gain kidney yang energy than it is to lose and deplete kidney yang energy. So in Chinese medicine, kidney yang energy is also stress hormones, right? So it's adrenaline, it's cortisol, it's that activating part of your body. So in a lot of ways, it's activating your nervous system. It's extremely draining. Coffee is not giving you energy, it's depleting your energy. It also masks your hunger cues so that you might not be properly nourishing your body. You know, a lot of men I know, and maybe this is just what I see, do not eat 3 meals a day. They go long periods of time without eating. They don't properly nourish their bodies. Obviously, that's a problem alone, but coffee makes this easier because it satiates your hunger so that you're not as hungry. Coffee also masks our tired cues so you're not getting enough sleep, and sleep and nourishment is so vitally important to our overall health and to building yin in the body. I was doing a consult with a couple the other day where the man had male factor infertility, and it was not surprising to me to hear that he drinks 4 cups of coffee a day, right? So if there is a problem with male infertility, the first place to start is by stopping coffee, because it is a daily habit that is depleting your body's energy to be able to have good quality sperm. It's especially depleting the motility, right? The ability of the sperm to swim, because it's depleting that yang energy that the sperm need in order to move and to swim. Now, just like with female fertility, it's really important for men to support the energy of their spleen, to support their digestive health. In Chinese medicine, the energy of our spleen is responsible for digesting and absorbing the nutrients from the food that we eat, and then turning those nutrients into usable resources in our body, right? So if our spleen, if our digestive system is off, we're not really getting the full benefit of the food that we eat. So this is like step 1. This is vitally important. And the best way to nourish the energy of the spleen is to eat warm, cooked foods. So not those protein shakes, not those salads or smoothies or yogurt bowls, really focusing on warm, cooked foods. And that includes warm drinks. So no more iced beverages either, room temperature to warm water, teas, things like that. Other things that deplete the energy of the spleen, one of the biggest things is stress and worry and overthinking. You know, in Chinese medicine, our mind and body are one. They are connected, almost to the point where it's silly that I'm saying that, because they just are. It's one whole being. But our mind vastly affects our physical health. And the best way to understand this in terms of spleen energy is, have you ever felt nervous or anxious, or you're worrying about something and you notice your stomach hurts, or maybe you have diarrhea, or maybe you have constipation, right? Your digestion is immediately thrown off, right? This is our mind affecting our body. And this can happen at a much lower level with constant worry and chronic worry. And I do see this a lot in men because men specifically are taught not to show their emotions and are not taught how to really work through their emotions. So mental and emotional health is really important for male fertility. And so then once we know our digestion is in place and our digestion is well, and I should mention that means you should also be having a bowel movement at least once a day, and it should be easy. Again, a lot of men I know take a half an hour in the bathroom to have a bowel movement. It should not take that long. So if you are not having at least one bowel movement a day, or your bowels are really loose, diarrhea-like, that is a sign that something is out of balance with your digestion that absolutely needs to be addressed to support your fertility. So then to really build and nourish kidney yin and yang energy, it really comes down to basics of eating a well-balanced diet of warm cooked foods, right? It's about having good quality grains, good quality meat protein, good quality vegetables, good quality beans, good quality fish, right? It's really just about balance. The biggest thing I see in my practice with men is that they eat a lot of meat but avoid carbs. And again, this could just be the men that I meet. It might not be everyone, but I'm just going to point it out there that we absolutely need animal protein, and animal protein is really what's going to support building blood and building that kidney yang energy, that warmth, that movement. But we also need grains in our life. We need vegetables. We need those nutrients as well. Grains specifically support the energy of our spleen and our digestion. They're very grounding. They're also moistening to build hydration in the body. We really need a well-balanced diet. There's really no magic pill or trick to diet. It's really just about eating a well-balanced diet. Not avoiding saturated fats, right? That's a big one that people avoid these days. Saturated fat is what our body needs to create hormones in our body. Our body needs saturated fat to create yin, thick fluids in our body, to create an abundance of sperm and semen. So really just making sure you're getting a variety of food. And now yin and yang energy always work in balance. And this is one of the most important aspects of Chinese medicine, fertility, and probably male fertility to understand. We need yin energy to create yang energy, right? So we need rest to create energy during the daytime. At the same time, we need yang energy to create yin energy, right? We need to, in some sense, wear ourselves out during the day to create that yin energy at night. So it's really important to understand this in the terms of male fertility, because male fertility is so much balanced on having an abundance of kidney yin and yang energy and really having a good balance of that. So rest is so important and vital for our body for fertility. It's rest that really nourishes our body. It's when we're sleeping that our body builds those resources, such as blood, such as yin, such as qi, such as energy to support the sperm's health, right? So without rest, our body is not getting the resources it needs to create healthy sperm. So prioritizing rest is really important. I always say try to be in bed by 10 o'clock, asleep by 11 o'clock. Give yourself at least 8 hours in bed to sleep. Having a balanced movement routine will also support male fertility and sperm health. So you don't want to do extremely high intensity workouts every day of the week and for a long time, especially because what that does is it depletes that kidney yang energy. And again, it's that kidney yang energy that's needed for mobility, for sperm mobility, for movement, for erections, for ejaculation, right? We need that mobility. So you don't want to do really high intensity workouts, and you also don't want to not move at all, because not moving at all creates stagnation, right? So it's really just about creating this really beautiful balance of movement where you're moving your body, you feel strong, you're working your muscles, you're getting movement, you're getting oxygen to your body, but you're not depleting your body, right? You shouldn't be excessively sweating. You should be able to talk when you work out. It's about finding balance. And now that I talked about excessive sweating, this brings me to another important point, is that you really need to build fluid and hydration in your body to support your sperm. Thin fluids and hydration is really important to sperm health, because in order to create sperm, right, which is thick fluids, it's actual something you can feel in the body, we need that thin fluid, that hydration, to give it a basis. And dehydration will end up in having a lack of sperm. Hydration is also really important for overall health, our essence, and our organ quality. So being chronically dehydrated could affect your sperm quality also. So the best way to hydrate is through food. So incorporating soups and stews into your diet, having cooked grains, right? Cooked grains hold on to moisture, so they're very moistening in our body. We need to drink water throughout the day, right? We're humans, we need to drink water, but the most hydrating thing is going to come through food, through soups and stews and cooked grains. And it's also really important to stop doing the things that dehydrate our body, which generally is excessive sweating. And people always tell me, I know I sweat a lot, but then I drink a lot of water, and that's wonderful. But typically you just pee out that water, right? It's so much harder to rehydrate than it is to dehydrate. So it's really important to stop dehydrating yourself to protect your fertility, to protect your sperm health. And lastly, I want to talk about the free flow of liver chi, right? We need a free flow of energy, a free flow of chi to be able to support the movement of our sperm. And the number one thing that constricts the energy of our liver, two things, is not having enough blood in your body, which will show up as signs as fatigue, as dizziness, as being pale, having brain fog, hair falling out. All those signs are signs that there's a lack of blood in your body. And the best way to support that is having small amounts of red meat frequently. So that means not having a 16-ounce steak, but having like a 4 to 6 ounce steak, right? But frequently eating a lot of red meat to get that good quality blood building food. But the other number one thing that affects our liver chi, right, the free flow of the energy in our body, is stress. And this is probably the number one thing I see in male patients that come to me. It's stress, anxiety, worry, emotions blocking their energy. And stress is probably one of the worst things for our fertility, for male and female fertility, because, there's so many layers to it. But stress, anxiety, worry, and fear, it's depleting to our body, right? It activates our nervous system. It turns our nervous system on, which is kind of like this little battery in the back of like a bunny. I don't know. I kind of think of it as like the Energizer bunny constantly going, right? And that's constantly depleting our battery. It's depleting our energy. So stress, anxiety, and worry is very depleting on our body. It's depleting that kidney yin and yang energy, depleting that blood that our body needs for fertility. But on top of that, stress constricts the energy of our liver, right? Stress, if you just think about it, it's a very constricting energy. It's not like free flowing. It's not like, oh, this feels great. No, it's like you want to curl up in a ball and, hide under a sheet. That's what stress feels like. It doesn't feel good. So stress is the number one thing that constricts the energy of our flow of energy, the flow of our liver chi. And I always say that managing stress is harmful. So what we want to do is understand the stress, right? So examine, where is the stress coming from, right? Any emotion comes from a thought or belief. We don't just have emotions, we have thoughts and beliefs that create those emotions. Just a lot of us never stop to look at what those thoughts and beliefs are that are creating the emotion. So the number one thing you can do is, one, recognize when you're feeling strained, stressed, worried, anxious, fearful, angry, whatever emotion might be coming up for you. Just stop and recognize it. That's the first step. Step two is you want to feel it. And I find this to be a big factor in male fertility because so many men were taught to not feel their feelings. I have a son who's 8 years old now, and I can proudly say that he cries easily. But I'm saying that because I read in a book once that most boys by kindergarten are subconsciously taught by society that they're not allowed to feel their emotions. That's not okay to cry. It's not okay to feel your emotions, right? So this is a societal problem that we have, but it is so important to feel your emotions. So when you feel an emotion come up, you want to recognize it. And the second thing you want to do is feel the emotion, to feel uncomfortable, which doesn't have to come up as an outburst. It doesn't even need to be crying, screaming, kicking, right? You don't need to show emotion. You need to feel emotion. It's really about leaning into feeling uncomfortable in your body. And this is new for most people, right? It's something that I had to learn as an adult also. So it can feel awkward. It can feel unusual. You might not know if you're doing it right, but the best thing to do is to allow yourself to feel, because when we feel, we allow ourselves to let go. When we try to ignore it, when we try to breathe it away or exercise it away or go for a walk, then we're really just suppressing that emotion, right? We're ignoring that emotion. We're suppressing that emotion. And so that is how I always say to work through emotions in the moment. But what's more important to that is understanding why these emotions are coming up, right? So what thought, like I mentioned before, is creating that emotion? And then when did this thought start, right? When we're stressed or anxious in the moment as adults, it's never from that moment. And you're probably thinking like, what the fuck does that mean, right? Like, yes, I'm stressed because there's a fire drill at work. That's why I'm stressed. That's not actually why you're stressed. You're stressed because this has happened before in your life, because this thought or belief has come up in your life probably for years and you haven't worked through it, right? There's something in the background telling you that something is wrong or something that isn't right with you or your environment that just keeps showing up, and it keeps showing up until we address it. And I'll be honest, addressing it is the hardest part of the work, right? It's addressing long-term emotions, a long-term trauma, taking a real look at our lives and situations going on. And it can be hard and it can be uncomfortable, but it is so powerful. And to give you an example, something I see a lot in my practice with the men that I work with is work stress, right? They overwork, they do too much, they don't set boundaries at work. And it goes back to this thought that like I need to be the achiever, right? Like I need to make a lot of money, I need to do a lot of money to be a man, right? It's that like internal societal thought that a lot of men are raised with, that if we're not achieving, we're not worthy, which not so ironically is the same for women, but it shows up slightly different sometimes. But it's this thought that if I'm not achieving, I'm not worthy, right? Or it could come back to money fears, growing up in an environment where your family struggled for money or your parents were worried about money. So it could come back to this fear of not making enough money. My point is, it comes from a fear that was created in the past. And what we want to do is to bring your body and your mind back to the present moment. So this was really meant as a quick overview of how to support male fertility. And to just recap for you, the number one thing I want you to take away from this is, just like female infertility, male fertility can change, right? It is a symptom of something's going on in your body that's out of balance and wants to be addressed. So poor sperm health, poor sperm quality or quantity or movement, all of these things can be addressed and changed. And the places to start is by getting enough rest, stop drinking coffee, stop doing high intensity exercise, good quality movement where you're moving your body but you're not stressing out your body. Focus on your emotions, thoughts, beliefs, and mindset, and eat a really well-balanced diet where you're really nourishing your body and you're not restricting or depleting your body. If you like this episode, please share it with men in your life, and please let other people know about it. The more we can get the word out, the more people we can help.